Hello everybody, in this video we're gonna learn how to take this image and turn it into this in just 10 minutes. Let's get to it. The first thing that we're gonna do is make a copy using Ctrl J so we always have a backup of the original photo. So now let's take a look at our image. The things that we want to get rid of are the blemishes, the spots, the unevenness in the skin, which we can see here and here. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna try to get rid of the more noticeable spots. Here she has two moles that you can leave them on, but right here I'm gonna try to get rid of them all. And to do that, we're gonna use the remove tool and simply draw a circle around the area that we want to remove. Make sure that the area that you're selecting isn't too big because it's gonna create a texture that looks fabricated, and that's not what we want. So this looks pretty well. We have gotten rid of the things that we didn't want, and now we can even try to fix this a little, but it doesn't matter because we're gonna fix all of them anyway. The next step is to make two copies of this layer that we've just created. Again, we're gonna use Ctrl J and we're gonna group these two layers together. We're gonna name the first one high and the second one low. We're gonna turn this off and we go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and add some blur to it. Make sure not to add too much, just enough so the texture is going away, because we're gonna separate the texture from this and put it on the other layer. I think here is good. So now we're gonna turn this layer on and go to image, apply image, and put these settings on. Make sure to check if your photo or your image is 8-bit or 16-bit. When it's 8-bit, these are gonna be the settings that we're gonna use. And for layer, we want to separate the texture from this layer that we have added the blur to. So we're gonna pick low and we're gonna hit OK, and we're gonna change the blend mode to linear light. And what it does is, you see there is no difference between this layer and the one before, and that's what we want because we have now separated all the texture from it. So now we can do all we want on this layer. There are multiple ways to continue here, but Photoshop has made our lives a lot easier, and in this case we can again use the remove tool and try to even the skin. We can obviously keep this turned off, but right now I want this on. We're gonna turn off sample all layers and start drawing. We don't need to worry about drawing over big areas here because all the texture is on the layer above. And as you see, it's doing its magic. Now, there are other methods that we can use, but this saves us a lot of time when we have to do a lot of projects and the result is pretty incredible. Be aware of the highlights that we see because we don't want to mess them up. For example, if we draw all over the forehead when there is highlights and shadows, this is gonna be the result, you see, and it just looks odd. So that's not what we're gonna do. Let's even this a little more. And that's it. This is before and this is after. It's pretty amazing. So now that we have gotten rid of all the unevenness without losing any of the texture, we're gonna have to work on some details. To do that, we're gonna press Alt, Control, Shift, and E to create a layer that's merged everything that we had before. And what we want to get rid of now is these lines that we see in the forehead. And we can do that pretty easily. All we have to do is select the clone stamp tool and hold Alt and select the closest that we can and start drawing over the lines. As we can see, they're disappearing. And now we are pretty much finished, even though we have spent so little time. But there is always work to be done. Now we want to add some details and make it look better. First thing that we have to do is get rid of all this frizzy hair that we see here, and there are multiple things that we can use. For here, I want to use the remove tool and see how it will look. Doesn't look great, so we're gonna try to be a little more careful. Let's select sample all layers and get rid of all of this frizzy hair. We can obviously use other tools like clone stamp tool and draw over it. We don't want to do too much, make sure not to damage the hair. So it's pretty good. Now again, let's use the remove tool here and see how it looks. So that's pretty well. Obviously we can spend more time and make it look even better, but it's pretty good as it is. Let's merge these two layers using Ctrl and E. The next thing that I want to do is fix this area here because it looks kind of odd. This place is too empty. Obviously we can leave it intact, but let's not. So I'm gonna use the clone stamp tool again. I don't want it to be too soft, but let's leave it at 50% and let's sample here and start drawing. Obviously we don't want this here, so we're gonna create a layer mask for it. Use a brush tool flow 100% and try to get rid of this. As we see, it looks pretty good before and after. The next thing that we can do is we can put this layer on soft light. We have the brush tool already. Put the flow on 2% and simply draw over the areas that we want to lighten a little. Like around the lips, even here, and even underneath the eyes. Obviously, this model doesn't have eye bags, but it looks pretty well. Now the next thing is we're gonna again create a new layer and put it on soft light. This time use black and draw underneath the cheek to create a jawline. We can obviously take our time with it, and yeah, I think it looks pretty well. Look at the definition that it created for us. And that's it. That's all it takes to retouch a photo in 2024. Obviously, we can spend more time and add more details, but this looks pretty well for 10 minutes. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more.